A warm welcome once again. I enjoyed myself greatly in topic 3 when we focused on leadership and conflict management. I hope I'm going to enjoy myself as well in this topic, which is topic number 4, with a focus on decision making. If you participate effectively in this topic, it will equip you and it will improve your aspect in terms of decision making. Remember, great leaders are great decision makers. And in your journey, in order to become great, whether it's in the corporate world, whether it's in business, whether it's in society in general, you need to be able to make the right decisions at the right time. And I hope that you will enjoy this topic as we navigate through it all. Participate effectively and participate effectively. After studying this topic, you are expected to achieve the following learning outcomes. You are expected to have a complete and holistic understanding of the decision making process. It is important that you are able to illustrate the decision making process through a diagrammatic depiction. That is learning outcome number 1. Learning outcome number 2 focuses on the need for you to be able to identify the different types of decision making styles. These are decision making styles that are used by leaders and managers. Learning outcome number 3, you must be able to understand how the different types of leaders affect the decision making process. You may look at democratic leaders, autocratic leaders, servanthood leaders, ethical leaders, responsible leaders, amongst others. Learning outcome number 4 requires you to be able to focus and incorporate the aspect of ethics in the decision making process. Ethics relate to aspects such as honesty, accountability, trust, credibility, amongst others. Let us now look at the definition of decision making. There are different ways in which scholars define decision making. However, these various scholars they've agreed that decision making is a process. Therefore, when you analyze the various definitions of decision making, there are always key components that are critical and found in each and every definition of decision making. What are these key or critical components that we find in these various different definitions of decision making? Number 1, a process. Number 2, alternatives. Number 3, choice. Number 4, best. So any excellent definition of decision making may contain all or at least 2 or 3 of these components. So let us look at the definition by Negulescu. What are the components that are contained in there? In the definition by Negulescu, we see that the word process is there. We see that the word choosing between means that there is a choice that is made. The word alternative is also present. Let us look at the definition by Ferreira and Greenwald 2021. The word selecting the most suitable means that you are selecting the best. The word alternative is also present there. So it is very fundamental that when we define decision making, nearly all these components must be present. So in simple terms, decision making can be defined as a process. A process of what? A process of choosing the best alternative amongst a given set of alternatives. Probably, it may be necessary for me to give a practical illustration of what I am saying. Whether you are in Durban, you are in Polokwane, you are in Johannesburg, and you want to drive to Pretoria or Tshwane, as it is also known, there are many routes that you can basically choose to use. But before you select a route, you need to analyze what are the constituent aspects of that route. For example, Route 1, there may be a lot of traffic, so you get delayed. In Route 2, there may have been a lot of hijackings, so it is not safe. Route 3, it may be too long and therefore it may be too costly because the price of petrol recently went up. So it will be very expensive to use a very long route. Route number 4, there may be a lot of traffic police officers and therefore a lot of roadblocks. So it will delay you, but it may also be safe. So when you make your decision, you analyze each of all these critical aspects. Then you make a choice by choosing the best alternative. So after looking at all these 4 routes, you may settle for route number 4. So decision making is a process of choosing the best alternative amongst a given set of alternatives. Organizations mainly fail due to poor strategic decisions because strategic decisions are important for guiding and providing direction to the whole organization. Strategic decisions are long-term decisions, and these are decisions that are of critical importance for the functioning of the organization. They are important for the growth, survival, and profitability of the organization. This, therefore, may include the need for organizational re-engineering or organizational transformation. In simple terms, this means being proactive rather than reactive. It therefore means that if strategic decisions are undertaken correctly, the organization is able to transition into the future smoothly because it has been proactive rather than being reactive. Let us now look at tactical decisions. Tactical decisions are mainly short to medium term decisions. They are important for the positioning of the organization. The direction they take is influenced by strategic decisions. They are guided by the strategic direction the organization must take. If managers, for example, if they make poor tactical decisions, the organization may not compete effectively, and the end result is low productivity and organizational failure. So it is very important that middle managers must make sure that tactical decisions are correctly implemented and put in place. Let us now look at operational decisions. Operational decisions are daily decisions. This means they are routine decisions and they are made to ensure that the operational aspects of the organization function efficiently and effectively. These decisions ensure that productivity targets are monitored daily and they are guided by tactical decisions. So, at the operational level, it therefore means that on a daily basis, there must be stock taking of what has been achieved on a daily basis. But it must also be emphasized that strategic, tactical, and operational decisions they work hand in hand and they are all important for the efficient and effective functioning of the organization. We must note that decisions are made at different managerial levels in the organization. These include top, middle, and lower level management, which is also known as first line management. Top management, it must be noted that it includes the chief executive officer, it includes directors, and also senior managers. They are mainly involved in strategic thinking and they make strategic decisions. We must also note that top managers are paid a lot of money because they must think outside the box to develop the proper and correct strategies for the organization. The saying thus goes as follows: knowledge is power. Let us now look at the role of middle management. Middle managers include all functional managers. These are your human resource manager, these are your marketing manager, these are your finance manager, the production manager, and customer service manager, amongst others. They are responsible for making tactical decisions. They need to ensure that they implement the strategic decisions implemented by top management. Let us now look at first line managers or your lower level management. First line managers, we must note, they include supervisors, team leaders, and the foremen. They make operational decisions, and these are daily decisions to ensure that productivity takes place. They have a responsibility of ensuring that the tactical decisions made by middle managers are implemented. So it must be noted that your top, middle, and first line management, they must work together if decision making is to be implemented properly within the organization. Let us look at the decision-making process. It is very important that each student must be able to draw the diagram of the decision-making process, label it correctly, and also explain clearly what is happening at each step of the process. In order for decision-making to be properly undertaken in the organization, it must start by a proper diagnosis of the problem. So step number one requires us to have a proper and correct diagnosis of the problem. The root problem must be identified rather than the symptoms. So on step one, it is very important that you diagnose the root of the problem rather than the symptoms. If you diagnose the symptoms, it means the solution that you also develop will be based on the symptoms of the problem rather than the root of the problem. Imagine if you go to a doctor and the doctor gives you a wrong diagnosis, it also automatically means that the doctor will also give you a wrong treatment. It is also the same with step one of the decision making process. In step two, after having correctly diagnosed the problem, then you need to develop the alternatives. So, in the development of the alternatives, it requires critical thinking. You may also use techniques such as brainstorming in building and developing alternatives. You may also need to research further. Therefore, if these are the requirements of step two, it gives us a picture that decision making is not easy, but it is actually a complex process. In step three, what you require there is you need to bring all possible alternatives for consideration. Then you need to analyze them, you need to critique them, you need to develop them, and you need to enhance them such that you have got complete information on each alternative. And it will make it simple for you when you arrive at step four of the process, which means you now need to make a decision. By making a decision in step four, it means you are choosing the best alternative. Therefore, remember the definition of decision making. I said decision making is a process of choosing the best alternative amongst a given set of alternatives. So, in step four, where you are making a decision, you are choosing the best alternative. So, you need to have a complete and holistic understanding of the whole process of decision making in order for you to arrive and make the correct and best decision. Let us now look at the types of decision-making styles for managers. But I need to give you a word of caution. It is important that you have a clear understanding of the decision-making styles for managers as opposed to the decision-making styles for leaders. Because at times students tend to intermix the two. That is why it is very important for you to clearly understand the differences between the decision-making styles for managers and that for leaders. Let me now focus on irreversible decisions. Irreversible decisions are decisions which one cannot change. It therefore means that if the manager makes such a decision, he or she cannot be able to change that decision. It is therefore important that the manager must be certain that this is the correct decision to take. So when a manager is making an irreversible decision, he or she must be certain that this is the correct decision being undertaken. It is also important that the manager must have the necessary experience, the necessary skills, and the necessary expertise to be able to undertake an irreversible decision. Because once it is made, it cannot be changed. Let us now look at reversible decisions. Reversible decisions are those decisions that one can be able to change. If you make the decision and you realize that you have made a mistake, you can come and correct that decision. You can come and reverse that decision. Let's move on and let us look at deferred decisions. To defer means to postpone. To defer means to postpone. It is therefore important that at times, as a manager, you need to read and analyze the environment. When you read and analyze the environment, you may realize that it is not the correct time to make a decision. Therefore, what do? You defer or you postpone making the decision. What about speedy decisions? Speedy decisions are decisions that one needs to make immediately. These are immediate decisions. You cannot be able to postpone them. Therefore, speedy decisions must be made without delay. If they are delayed, they are overtaken by events. So if you delay in making a speedy decision, you may be overtaken by events and the organization may lose out. What about investigational decisions? The key issue in investigational decisions is that you need to research before you make the decision. You need to find out more information. Therefore, your decision making must be supported by facts. So when you make an investigational decision, you need to research, you need to have adequate information such that your decision is supported by facts. I hope that we have had a clear understanding of the decision making styles for managers. Excellent leaders must possess excellent decision making skills. It is important that the leader must be an excellent decision maker because leaders will be called upon to make crucial and critical decisions. If the leader is not an excellent decision maker, the risk is that he or she may make poor decisions, and these poor decisions may drive the organization down, or it may even lead to the complete collapse of the organization. There are various ways or various decision making styles that are available for leaders. For example, the authoritative style. Let me explain now the authoritative style, what happens there. In the authoritative style, it must be borne in mind that the leader is the sole decision maker. So the leader makes the decisions alone. He or she does not consult anyone. This approach only works well if the leader has got great expertise in the area in which he or she is making the decision. The facilitative approach is a good approach because in this approach there is joint decision making, which means the leader invites the subordinates and they jointly make the decision. So if anything goes wrong, both the leader and the subordinates are held accountable. Why? Because they jointly made the decision together. The consultative approach means that the leader, before making a decision, he or she consults the subordinates. But at the end of the day, the leader is the one who ultimately makes the decision. In the delegative approach, it means basically that the leader gives his authority or her authority to make a decision to a subordinate. So the subordinate will make the decision on behalf of the leader. But it is important also to illustrate that when you delegate, it does not mean that you look aside and say everything is done. You still remain responsible. So a leader who delegates his or her decision-making authority still remains responsible for the outcome of the decision that has been made by the subordinate. So it is important that as a leader, you must use wisdom when it comes to decision making. But however, it is imperative that every leader must possess excellent decision making skills. Remember that organizations are as good as the leaders who lead those organizations. Therefore, there are different types or kinds of leaders who are found in organizations, who are found in parastatals in the corporate world, who are found leading nations. Some of the leaders are autocratic leaders. Some of them are democratic leaders. Some of them are bureaucratic leaders. Some of them, they are laissez-faire leaders, and others are servanthood leaders, others are ethical leaders, others are responsible leaders. So there are many different types of leaders who are found in organizations. Let us look therefore at the autocratic leader and what style is he or she likely to use. The autocratic leader is one man rule. So it means a single person is in charge and is in authority. Therefore, he or she is highly likely to use an authoritative style of decision making. The democratic leader would normally use a consultative style of decision making because he or she takes into consideration the input of the people before making a decision. The bureaucratic leader focuses on using the prevailing rules and regulations. So he or she is likely to follow what do the rules say. Then he or she, in terms of decision making, follows what the rules and regulations say. The laissez-faire leader is not a leader at all, this person, because he or she abdicates the duty of responsibility as a leader and allows the people to do as they please. So the people are the ones who are now in control and they make their own decisions, and the leader looks aside and is not concerned. The servanthood leader has got a heart for the people. Therefore, he or she is highly likely to use either consultative or a facilitative decision making style. That is very critical and fundamental. So, whatever style you use, whatever approach you use, it is important that consideration of the people is taken into cognizance. Let me now look at the area of ethics in decision making. This is a very important area because when you look at the area of ethics, it talks about integrity, it talks about credibility, it talks about responsibility, and it also brings in the notion of accountability. Because when you make a decision, you must be prepared to be held accountable for the decision that you have basically made. But let me now begin to unpack some of the key aspects that pertain to ethics in decision making. We must note that ethics can be understood in terms of moral values that govern behavior. So underline the word moral values. You must have a moral conscience when you make a decision. And the decision that you make must be the correct and right decision. It must not be influenced by anything else, such that after you've made a correct decision, you have got a clear conscience and you do not regret anything. So I'm saying ethics can be understood in terms of moral values that govern behavior. It is about differentiating the good from the bad. What is right versus what is wrong. It is about having a conscience to do good no matter the situation. This is why I said no matter what influences are surrounding you, you must make an ethical decision. You must make a decision that is based on integrity and credibility. Ethical decision making must be at the core of every decision making process undertaken by the organization. It must be noted that unethical administrators are notorious for destroying organizational records. So do not be that unethical administrator. Always be an excellent administrator who upholds the virtues of ethics to the highest level of standard. It must also be known that challenges or problems such as corruption and nepotism in organizations, they occur because of a lack of ethics. Administrators, for example, they can make records disappear in order to protect and cover their friends from corruption, from nepotism. So it is important that the virtues of ethics are upheld in the decision making process. I hope and trust that you yourself you will become an ethical administrator whom your organization will be very proud of. There are key principles that need to be taken into consideration when we begin to unpack the area of ethics in decision making. What are some of these key principles that we need to pay attention to? Integrity, compliance, transparency, responsibility. But these are not enough because there are other key principles also that need to be given attention to. What are those? Accountability, trust, respect, credibility, reputation, and also honesty. Let me now begin to break down the area of integrity. If you are a person of high integrity, it basically means that you are a person of strong moral principles. Your conviction is rooted in upholding the good as opposed to the bad. So you are a person who likes things to be done the proper way. So you are a man or you are a woman of integrity. And that is important in terms of decision making. Because when you make a decision, you are driven by inner values, by the inner virtue to project and make the correct decision. The aspect of compliance entails one to adhere to prevailing rules and regulations. It also means that one respects organizational policies. So before making a decision, one looks at the rules and regulations, one looks at the organizational policies, and one makes a decision based on those aspects. The decision is not based on nepotism. The decision is not based on friendship, but the decision is based on complying with prevailing rules and regulations and policies of the organization. Transparency means being open. So openness is very critical when it comes to ethical decision making. Do not be engaged in unethical secrets. Do not be engaged in unethical secrets. There's always a thumb rule or a principle that says, remember, wolves have got eyes and ears. So it is very important that as a person who upholds ethics, when you make ethical decisions, you must always be transparent. Responsibility. Responsibility means you take moral responsibility to project and make the correct decision. Accountability. Accountability means that you are prepared to take ownership for the decision that you have made. Even if you have made a wrong decision, you stand by the wrong decision and you apologize. You do not seek to blame others. That is what is central and key in ethical decision making. So organizations are looking for men and women who are prepared to be held accountable for the decisions that they make. Trust. Remember that trust cannot be built in a day because trust is a product of relationship. So the more that you relate to your peers and colleagues, this is how trust develops. It develops over a period of time. The question is, can you be trusted? Are you trustworthy? Can you be trusted to make the correct decision? Can you be trusted to take ownership when you make the wrong decision? These are critical ethical questions that are important in terms of ethical decision making. Respect. Respect means not undermining others. So when you make a decision in terms of respect, you are not looking down upon anybody, but you are just making the correct decision. Honesty. Honesty means that you stand for the truth. Honesty means that you stand for the truth. So you look at the factors, you look at the facts, and you make a decision based on the truth. These are the key principles that are important in ethical decision making. I hope and trust that you, as a world class administrator, you will uphold the virtues of ethics whenever you are called upon to make a decision in your organization. I hope that you will enjoy this case study as it is very important because it illustrates the importance of using an ethical approach in terms of decision making. This is a very important case study as it illustrates that no matter how difficult a situation is, always make ethical decisions. Shortcuts are costly. Whenever you make a decision, consider the following: integrity, credibility, and responsibility. Enjoy the case study and also attempt to answer the questions that will follow. I hope you have enjoyed this case study, which focuses on the importance of abiding to the area of ethics in decision making. Remember that whatever decision you make, it is important that you safeguard the ethical aspects of integrity, credibility, responsibility, and trust. Now it is time for you to attempt the questions that follow on the next slide. Remember, a participative approach to learning is the best way to do it, as it will equip you and it will also measure if you have understood the learning outcomes of this topic. So I encourage you to participate and attempt to answer the questions. And in a classroom situation, you will give your answers and they'll be discussed. Remember, the key thing at this level of study is application of knowledge. And your application of knowledge can only increase as you participate in answering the questions to the case study exercise. So go for it, do it, and you can do it. I feel so excited because I am proud of you. I know that you have participated in the case study exercise and you have given your best in attempting to answer the questions. That is the way to do it, a participative approach to learning. I'm looking forward to be with you in topic number 5, problem solving and teamwork. We are a winning team, and a winning team will never be defeated. A winning team will never be discouraged. So we will not be defeated by any situation, will not be defeated by any scenario. That is why I am excited to be with you as I present topic 5, problem solving and teamwork. But before I say goodbye, let me look at the memorable quote by one of the great management leaders and management gurus, Peter Drucker. What does he say? He says making good decisions is a crucial skill at every level. So decision making is a very critical and vital tool that each and one of us must possess. Thank you so much. I look forward to be with you. You excite me. You have a very good and blessed day.